You've wandered here, through candlelit corridors of quiet curiosity, to a place where even history yawns. Tonight, the winds are whispering lullabies in Latin, and somewhere a monk snores in Gregorian chant. The stars lean in, eager to share tales not of kings or battles, but of bedsheets, socks, and medieval sleep rituals that make counting sheep feel like avant-garde theater. This is not a bedtime story. It is a bed-century story. A woven saga of yawns, fleas, and theological snoring. In these 20 chapters, you'll drift past chamber pots clanking in the night, explore prophetic cheese-induced dreams, and meet villagers who believed segmented sleep was God's scheduling preference. There's no rush. The moon's your guide, and the mattress creaks softly in approval. So take a deep breath, adjust your haste-puffed pillow, and let your eyes grow heavy as the first tale unfolds. Chapter 1: Segmented Slumber and the Midnight Wake-Up Club. In the realm of yesteryear, when sleep was treated less like a biological function and more like a collaborative art project, medieval folks practiced what we now call segmented sleep, or, as the Latin scribes may have whispered, duo somni mysterium. First sleep began not with a bedtime routine, but with the sun simply giving up. As twilight bled across the wooden beams and hay-strewn floors, villagers retired to their straw mattresses, hay pallets, or shared beds with family, friends, or a comforting pig. The first sleep was rich and intense, lasting until around midnight, when the night whispered, "Time to wake." And so they did. No alarm, no resentment, just a sleepy shuffle into semi-lucidity. Middle night wakefulness became its own sacred interval, typically 1 to 2 hours long, depending on how many secrets the dark sky revealed. Some people whispered prayers to soothe guilt. Others wandered quietly in gardens under moonlight, and many lay still thinking, praying, or writing with flickering candles. Letters from the era speak of this time with eerie normalcy. The 13th century monk Thomas of called it the holy hour when God listens best, an idea born from sleepy hallucinations and theological ambition. People took this time to process dreams from their first sleep, ponder mortality, sneak snacks, or visit neighbors. Fun sleep fact: segmented sleep wasn't seen as disorderly, it was the standard. Historical documents as late as the 17th century refer to first sleep and second sleep like meal courses. The modern idea of 8 uninterrupted hours, that's the sleep equivalent of fast food. Second sleep tucked everyone back in, often richer in dreams and quieter in snoring. Scholars say it was during this second act that visions struck, divine warnings, prophetic cheese-induced imagery, or simply dreams of being chased by giant fleas wearing crowns. You see, sleep was a journey, not a block. Like reading a 2-part bedtime book, where the intermission involved prayer, mild panic, and perhaps mutton stew. The medieval bed wasn't just a place to rest, it was a throne of status, a battleground of feathers, and a daily reminder that comfort was a luxury paid in social coin and poultry tax. The very shape and stuff of your pillow told others whether you were nobility, merchant, monk, or someone who would probably wake up with a beetle in their ear. Hierarchy of sleep surfaces. Let S begin with the bottom tier, a pile of straw loosely stuffed into a cloth sack called a pallet. If you were lucky, that straw was fresh. If you weren't, it was last season's straw, now home to beetles and philosophical ants. Peasants didn't mind. They were mostly unconscious from exhaustion, and anyway, dreams were considered godly, not comfy. Climb the ladder a bit, and you reached down-filled luxury reserved for nobles, well-fed merchants, and bishops who believed soft sleep brought them closer to heaven. But this soft glory invited feather envy. Pillow theft was a real crime. Records from 14th century England note village disputes over stolen bedding, especially pillows. A noblewoman once accused her neighbor of replacing her goose feather pillow with duck, a serious downgrade. Feathers were currency, so valuable, in fact, that some towns had pillow inspectors. Yes, pillow inspectors. They patrolled to prevent illegal feather stuffing and counterfeit cushions. Feather purity mattered. Goose feathers fluffed better, duck feathers flattened, and raven feathers were considered cursed. The royal nap protocol in royal courts. Pillows were embroidered with family crests. Servants were required to fluff them with ceremonial care. There's even evidence that kingly pillows were transported in velvet cases, not for hygiene, but status. A well-displayed pillow was a flex. Bed traps and lice diplomacy, but no amount of nobility could stop the lice. Even the richest feather-stuffed pillow became a playground for tiny nightmares. Thus emerged the ritual of lice diplomacy, where people shared potions, lavender sachets, or whispered advice on how to lure lice into cold corners before bed. Spoiler, it barely worked. Pillow as personality: large, square pillow, arrogant sleeper; small, round pillow, frugal sleeper; no pillow, saintly sleeper, or deeply unlucky. Monks, despite their vows of humility, sometimes stuffed their habits with straw for a secret pillow substitute. One abbot was reportedly excommunicated after embroidering scripture onto his sleep cushion. Heretical threadwork, they called it. In medieval bedrooms, or what passed for them privacy was rarer than soap, and warmth was a communal endeavor. Beds were not just places to sleep. They were shared ecosystems, chaotic social arenas, and occasionally home to poultry with nighttime wanderlust. The communal bed phenomenon: imagine drifting off beside your cousin, a traveling monk, 2 apprentices, and a cat named Marmalade, who's known for interrupting prayers. This wasn't unusual, it was often the only option. Many medieval homes had one bed, and everyone squeezed in like scones at a feast. Why? Wood was expensive, heat was precious, personal boundaries hadn't been invented yet. Sometimes inns featured hotbeds, rented by the hour, not for anything scandalous, but because people rotated in and out for warmth. It was considered polite to pretend you weren't awake while someone else's feet tickled your ribcage. Livestock, lodgers, pigs, chickens, and even goats were nighttime bedmates, especially in colder climates. A chicken under your blanket, better than a cold foot. Pigs were prized for their body heat and terrifying midnight snorts. Chronicled accounts exist of farmers naming their sleep pigs with affectionate titles like Sir Trotalet or Lady Huffleum. These animals were not pets, but they might have been considered bedtime security systems, loud Wrigley, and excellent deterrents against theft. Sleepwear and cuddling etiquette. Despite the crowded conditions, there were rules, usually unwritten and mostly broken. If you rolled over and touched someone's elbow, you apologized. If you rolled over and touched someone's chicken, the chicken protested loudly. If you talked in your sleep, you were mocked mercilessly in the morning. Most sleepers wore only their tunics or went full medieval minimalist naked, except for a nightcap and socks. Sharing warmth often meant strategic spooning, but anything perceived as lusty loafing could land one in confession or communal judgment. Theater of the bed. These shared sleeping spaces were surprisingly theatrical. People whispered stories, confessed secrets, plotted revenge, and occasionally composed haikus about fleas. One account from 1423 describes a merchant murmuring nightly poetry to his chickens, believing it improved egg yield. It did not, but the sonnets survived. In the medieval fashion canon, sleepwear was a strange and fluctuating entity. Clothing was practical, often reused from the day, and the idea of dedicated pajamas was about as common as central heating. Still, if one peeked into a sleepy 14th century cottage, you'd discover a world of cozy contradictions and headwear hierarchies. Sleeping au naturel or tunic-clad. Most medieval sleepers wore whatever they hadn't already spilled ale on. For peasants, that might mean sleeping in a rough linen tunic, possibly still dusted with flour from the day's labors. For monks and ascetics, sometimes nothing at all. Nudity was seen as holy humility, though it got chilly during penance season. Nobles occasionally had designated night garments made from soft wool or luxurious linens, rare items embroidered with family sigils or biblical motifs. These weren't pajamas so much as evening displays of wealth. Think sleep couture meets existential dread, the reign of the nightcap, while pajamas were optional. The nightcap was practically mandatory. These soft, pointed, or round caps helped retain body heat in frigid, stone-walled homes. They came in various styles: monk caps, modest, snug, pious merchant caps, tasseled, occasionally perfumed peasant caps, patched, rabbit-lined, sometimes shared between siblings. Legends say one wandering bard wore a nightcap that doubled as a coin pouch. He once lost 3 shillings during an especially vigorous sneeze in his sleep. Sock worship and the great toe debate. Socks were more than foot warmers. They were sleep talismans. Villagers believed that cold feet led to bad dreams, prophetic errors, or unwanted visits from the toothless hag of twilight, a folk-tale phantom who punished sockless slumber. Some communities developed a tradition of sock blessing, where a local priest would quietly touch each villager's sleeping foot with lavender oil once a year. No one could explain why, but it was calming and mildly fragrant. Washed before bed? Not likely. Bathing was rare, and nightly grooming rarer still. Sleepwear wasn't washed regularly. Bedbugs formed dynasties, and fleas orchestrated pillow revolutions. Still, sleepers held on to rituals like combing their hair before bed, or murmuring to their shoes in hopes they'd stay dry by morning. In a time when central heating was just a dream scribbled in angelic Latin, medieval people relied on the living, breathing warmth of animals, furry, feathery, and occasionally stubborn. A bed wasn't just a human sanctuary, it was a shared ecosystem, buzzing with snoring creatures, moonlit foot nudges, and chicken existentialism. The warmth economy. Livestock lodging rights. Pigs were prized roommates, not for conversation, but for their unmatched body heat. One curled-up hog could warm a bed better than 6 poorly stitched quilts. A documented village in 15th century Bohemia even ranked pigs by bedworthiness based on temperament, odor, and nocturnal flatulence. Top-tier pigs slept beside the fire. Lower-ranked pigs got relegated to the prayer corner. Chickens also made repeat appearances, often roosting at the foot of beds, contributing soft rustles and the occasional sleeper peck if disturbed. Their feather-fluffing rituals became lullabies. Children reportedly slept best when the family hen clucked softly beside them, like a maternal heartbeat in poultry format. Cats and mouse diplomacy. Cats, though rarely bathed and often mildly judgmental, earned their bed spots by patrolling for nighttime invaders, rodents, spirits, and ambitious breadcrumbs. They slept like philosophers, curled tight against parchment scrolls and peasant toes. A famous abbey cat named Sister Whiskerlet was said to chase away both mice and bad dreams. Pilgrims traveled just to pet her, claiming her fur healed insomnia. Skeptical friars remained unconvinced. Dogs as sleep guards and snore monitors, loyal. Hounds guarded the hearth and grunted. Some noble breeds had designated sleep duties. They curled beside vulnerable children, warmed the feet of aging lords, or glared suspiciously at pillows that moved too much. In one infamous tale, a sleep-hogging mastiff named Sir Droolington caused a small feud by claiming a merchant's entire mattress and refusing to budge for 3 nights. The pillow inspectors got involved. Feathers flew, sleeping with beasts. The social implications, sharing a bed with a creature was unloliate, was practical, spiritual, and occasionally philosophical. People believed animals absorbed nightmares, carried warmth across dreamscapes, and occasionally whispered divine signs. Some theologians wrote long passages about holy animals who visited sleep and nudged people toward penance or just spilled ink on manuscripts. As the flickering candlelight stretched long across the stone walls, and sleep surrendered to its most mysterious cousin, it transformed into a sacred stage, a liminal zone between mortal aches and eternal mysteries. Here, the final sleep was choreographed with solemn rituals, whispered farewells, and a chorus of spiritual anxieties, preparing for the sleep eternal when someone sensed death approaching, often diagnosed by an ache, a crow's suspicious glance, or simply surviving past 40, they'd be laid in their best bed, not necessarily their softest, but the one closest to God's ear, often positioned facing east toward the rising sun, or toward the nearest church, if architectural geography allowed. Relatives gathered quietly, except for those who openly wept, which was common and sometimes dramatic. It was customary to recite specific prayers that doubled as bedtime lullabies and soul-launching instructions. Clergy, summoned sometimes prematurely, performed last rites with holy oils, all while being careful not to trip over the foot of the bed, which was considered symbolically risky. Stepping there might trap the soul. Sleep and salvation, not always a gentle drift. Medieval beliefs didn't always paint a peaceful picture of death. Many feared that demons lurked beside pillows to snatch souls mid-snore. To guard against this, beds were occasionally sprinkled with holy water, and crosses hung at every conceivable angle. Sleep was metaphorical, a rehearsal for death, especially among monks. Some practiced lying still for hours each night, with their arms crossed, as if already tucked into eternity's embrace. Dreams as messages from the beyond. It was common for dying people to recount strange and cryptic dreams, visions of angelic staircases, infernal tax collectors, or grand banquets hosted by saints who hadn't RSVP'd. These final dreams were listened to with intense reverence, recorded by scribes, and sometimes used as warnings for the living. In one case, a cobbler dreamed of giant shoes flying toward heaven, interpreted as divine approval of his earthly craft. His family built a shrine shaped like a sandal. It was not popular. Animal witnesses of the end, cats and birds, were said to sense the final exhale. A raven appearing in a window was both ominous and oddly bureaucratic. It was believed to be an auditor of the soul's paperwork. Families tried to shoo ravens while maintaining respectful tone. "Begone, sir. The soul is not yet filed." Some pigs reportedly squealed softly when someone was about to pass. One monk in 1297 claimed his pig always laid on its side and wept when death approached. Historians question the accuracy of this, but it was a popular bedtime tale nonetheless. In the medieval world, dreams weren't just nighttime nonsense. They were messages, omens, and sometimes disturbingly dairy-fueled prophecies. Few substances stirred the subconscious quite like cheese, especially if consumed within an hour of slumber. Yes, Mahani, people once believed certain cheeses could summon divine visions or chaotic nocturnal riddles, depending on how pungent, aged, and rebellious the curd was. The ritual of the dream cheese, known among village mystics and skeptical monks as Caseus somnium. This practice involved eating specific types of cheese to trigger meaningful, sometimes unsettling, sleep visions. Some traditions, Roquefort Revelations, blue-veined Moldrich cheese, said to summon visions of the future, often involving livestock or shoes. Goat cheese guidance, consumed before making life decisions, like choosing between marriage proposals or which field to plant turnips in. Curd of confession, a humble cottage cheese thought to dredge up suppressed guilt. Priests recommended this for those unsure what sins they committed. Written accounts of dairy dreams. One 13th century account describes a woman dreaming of angels riding goats after consuming a wheel of spicy sheep's cheese. The village theologian declared it a sign of impending romance or mild indigestion. Another tale tells of a scribe who claimed cheddar revealed the location of a lost manuscript, though he later admitted it was actually just tucked under his mattress. Dream interpretation schools across Europe. Cheese dream interpreters emerged. They weren't officially ordained, but wore robes made of sackcloth and sometimes hung garlic for clarity. Their fees, often wheels of the very cheese that summoned the vision. They'd ask, "What kind of cheese did you eat? Did the dream contain horses, spoons, or fire? Were you flying, kissing a chicken, or counting clouds shaped like saints?" Based on these, they'd offer diagnosis: anxiety, unfulfilled ambition, or potential plague immunity. Cheese versus demonic nightmares. In some regions, cheese was used not to invite visions, but to block malevolent ones. A wedge of smoked Gouda placed under a child's pillow was believed to confuse dark spirits and lull them into mild snacking instead of soul haunting. A monastery once banned cheese entirely after multiple monks dreamed of dancing skeletons. They reinstated it after realizing the dreams stopped and morale plummeted. As the sun dipped behind fortress walls and the candles sputtered beneath iron chandeliers, medieval monasteries braced for battle not against marauders or plague, but against dreams. Yes, Mani, dreams. Within the hallowed chambers, sleep became a spiritual minefield, a nightly skirmish between divine purity and creeping temptation. The monks' midnight vigil. In many orders, monks avoided deep sleep like it was a seductive trap. They slept lightly, heads tilted toward heaven, believing that dreams were battlegrounds where demons could whisper, saints could challenge, and the subconscious could betray one's vows. Monastic sleep strategy included segmented slumber, waking every few hours to chant or kneel. The psalm snare technique, reciting psalms until they drifted off, hoping holy lyrics would echo in their dreams like protective spells. avoiding fluffy mattresses. Comfort was the enemy. Hay or wooden planks were thought to repel lusty spirits. Temptations in the night. Saint Bernard once warned that the devil wears perfumed dreams, and nightly apparitions could range from seductive figures to visions of lavish feasts or forbidden dance halls. One monk claimed he was visited by an angel in a flowing gown of jam and was convinced it was a test he passed by, biting his own finger. The remedy: cold water splashes before bed, sleeping with garlic cloves tucked into robes, avoiding cheese, which was blamed for erotic dreams, and one particularly troubling incident involving 3 friars and a goose. Nuns and holy dreamcraft. While monks fought off temptation, nuns embraced divine communion through dreams. Some recorded visions of the Virgin Mary handing out bread. Others saw clouds shaped like scrolls, unfurling celestial messages. Notable nun dreamers. Sister Elsbeth of Mainz dreamed regularly of walking on stars while a dove whispered. Latin hymns. Her visions were compiled into a handbook for spiritual sleep hygiene. Sister Leora claimed she received fashion advice from Saint Agatha. Her veil designs became the trend in convents across Bavaria. The sleep confession loop. Some orders began dream confessionals, where monks and nuns reported troubling nocturnal images. A dream involving dancing pastries might signal gluttony. A talking cat pride, falling endlessly in a pit of eels. That one got escalated. Penances for sinful dreams included copying the Bible by hand, fasting for 3 days, no bread, only sorrow and beets, wearing mismatched sandals to humble the soul. In the perfumed chambers of medieval nobility, power didn't just rest in golden thrones or inked scrolls, it slumbered on pillows. Yes, money, even cushions could be covert operatives. Beneath silk, embroidery, and goose feather fluff, secrets nested like sleepy sparrows. The Great Pillow Leak of 1378, during a tense peace negotiation between Flanders and Aquitaine, a royal attendant mistakenly placed a pillow meant for Princess Almodena beneath the head of Duke Renarda. Pillow containing coded embroidery detailing trade routes. Instead of slumber, Renard spent the night decoding the patterns, realized Aquitaine's wine was overpriced, and flipped the treaty entirely. Thus began the feather-fueled fury and an era of paranoid betting. Down feathers and espionage, it was discovered that certain pillow manufacturers, particularly those under royal contract, were stitching political symbols, secret loyalties, and even portrait thread caricatures into the seams. A pillow could declare allegiance or betrayal. There were known feather grades: diplomatic grade, plucked from geese, raised near abbeys, thought to soften moods and enhance compromise. Conspiratorial grade, filled with crow feathers to agitate sleep and stir unrest. Neutral nap grade, straw-stuffed, loud and uncomfortably used only in minor court disputes. The pillow smuggler of Saxony, one of history's strangest royal scandals. A man named Otto Featherton ran a smuggling ring where pillow stuffing was imported illegally to ensure better dreams for high-ranking officials. He was caught after Queen Matilda reported unusually vivid dreams featuring Polish aristocrats and a flying cello. His sentence: 7 months in a scratchy cot stuffed with municipal tax records. The embroidered insults wore during a brief diplomatic spat. Nobles began exchanging pillows with hidden embroidered insults. Examples include, "May your dreams be as vapid as your son's poetry." "Feathers can't soften your lack of lineage." A pillow fit for a squirrel, not a lord. One pillow had an image of a rat riding a donkey, which scholars later interpreted as commentary on taxation. Pillow purity trials to prevent future sabotage. Royals initiated pillow purity inspections, a mix of scent tests, weight checks, and theological feather blessings. Bishops would sniff pillow corners and mutter Latin prayers. A pillow deemed possessed was tossed into lakes or smelted with bronze relics. In one case, it was mailed to a rival kingdom as a gift of cursed comfort. Long before sneeze etiquette and hand sanitizer, medieval scholars debated a chilling question: could sleep itself be contagious, and deadly? As pestilence clawed across Europe like a sulking cat in a fever dream, physicians turned their suspicious gazes toward the innocent yawn and began theorizing that slumber might beckon the plague. The yawn theory of infection. Many healers believed that yawning opened not just mouths but portals. A yawn, they claimed, was a gateway through which corrupt air snuck into one's soul. Signs of concern. If 3 people yawned in succession, it was called a dead man's chain. Town criers warned against public yawning, advising citizens to chew parsley or hum loudly when drowsy. Nuns handed out painted wooden yawn masks, small boards to conceal mouths during divine boredom. The sleepwalking baker of Bruges in 1412. A baker named Willem suffered a sleepwalking episode where he wandered into the town square, left flower trails, and mumbled the rats are hiding the sun. Days later, the square was quarantined as plague symptoms spread. The legend of the somnambulist contagion was born. The city council banned midnight bread making, sleepwalking near wells, talking about rats without clergy supervision, sleep clinics, or secret plague hubs. Some physicians opened dream rest clinics to help people purge infectious fatigue. These clinics offered lavender-laced haybeds, scribes, to record your dreams for later plague analysis. Cats placed gently on the chest, believed to sense inner corruption. However, after a doctor fell asleep in his own clinic and dreamed of juggling eyeballs, the movement lost momentum. Papal decree against yawning in choirs. Pope Urban V issued a mild rebuke in 1360 after reports emerged that cathedral singers were yawning in unison during Vespers. It was feared their harmonic fatigue might summon divine displeasure or rats wearing tiny boots. Choirs were told to sing with clenched teeth and to visualize celery during long notes. Royal sleep studies and sneeze. Judges King Eric of Denmark commissioned a yawn census, instructing nobles to document moments of sleepiness, followed by any unexplained boils or spontaneous rat poetry. In court trials, if a defendant yawned while being accused of spreading plague, a special sneeze judge was summoned to test guilt by issuing surprise pepper bursts. Forget galloping stallions and gleaming sword. Some of the bravest acts of knighthood unfolded beneath woolen blankets and well-timed yawns. As it turns out, Mahoney medieval knights didn't just wage wars, they waged naps, and their battlefield was often a hay pile behind the trebuchet. Nap etiquette at the tournament grounds before jousts. Knights practiced the sacred ritual of the pre-duel snooze, believing that rested warriors had keener reflexes and fewer hallucinations. Important customs. Snoring in Latin was considered a sign of divine favor. Sharing a nap blanket implied military alliance. Dreaming of horses before combat foretold victory. Dreaming of ducks meant someone tampered with your stew. One famous joust was delayed 3 hours because Sir Bartholomew refused to duel until he completed his power nap cycle he won. Citing deep REM divine intervention, the Nap Pact of 1193, during a tense standoff between two feuding baronies, leaders drafted a Nap Pact. Every knight would sleep before any battle decisions. After 6 hours of coordinated napping, both sides forgot why they were mad and instead debated the merits of soup. This led to the shortest peace treaty in history. We agree to dream, not scream. The founding of the Royal Order of the Repose, whose motto was vigilance through napping. Battlefield nap tactics. Knights developed tactical naps, quick bursts of sleep taken between flurries of violence. The technique included sleeping standing up against trees, feigning unconsciousness to lure foes closer, snoozing inside armor while pages hummed lullabies. One knight claimed to have survived a siege by sleeping through it entirely. He awoke to find the enemy had tripped on barrels, cursed their poor planning, and left. The sleeping squire sabotage squires often served as nap guardians, but some, motivated by jealousy or poor judgment, disrupted nightly slumber by swapping pillows with cabbage, whispering riddles in their ears, lacing sleep socks with fermented goose feathers. Such sabotage was considered a high crime, punished by making the offender attend sermons about patience read by whispering monks. Knighthood trials via sleep in rare cases. Sleep itself was used as a test of character. A knight candidate might be placed in a room with no blankets, a portrait of a sneering owl, a lute-playing bard reciting the ballad of forgetful sleep. If the candidate could still fall asleep, he was deemed resilient and awarded the blanket of boldness, symbol of bravery and comfort. In the mosaic-laced corridors of ancient Byzantium, not all prophecies came from thunder or stars. Some whispered visions arose from silk-lined shadows, courtesy of mysterious figures known as the sleep-masked prophets. These dream seers, Mani, believed that true divine messages only came when eyes were closed, voices vague, and dinner entirely forgotten. Blindfolds of revelation, these prophets wore intricate sleep masks, embroidered with symbols like spirals, lambs, and upside-down ships. The masks blocked out worldly distractions and encouraged full immersion into the sleep state of insight. Mask varieties included the oracle's drapery, made of raven feathers and goat silk, only worn during eclipses. Saint's napcloth, dipped in lavender and aged prayers, believed to summon visions of holy vegetables. Masked of mirth, decorated with gestures used when interpreting humorous dreams, like talking furniture or jealous sunbeams. Speech through sleep, prophets would enter trances using herbal teas, lullaby, choirs, or whispered arguments about tax reform. They'd then mumble cryptic phrases like, "The river envies the spoon," "A frog dreams of marble beware," "Tonight stars blink in Morse code, decode with cheese." Their attendants recorded these utterances, cross-referenced them with lunar patterns, and decided whether to warn the empire or simply adjust the pillows. Mistaking dinner for destiny won prophet cash-in. The confused ones fell asleep after a feast and woke declaring, "The gods demand thyme and roasted figs." This message sparked a 3-week culinary festival and a minor religious schism around desert sauces. Later revealed, he'd just dreamed he was a fork. The Academy of Slumbering Insight, founded on a floating platform in the Bosporus. This institution trained young dream seers in whisper grammar, how to structure sentences while snoring, symbolic pajama selection, matching garment patterns with dream goals. The art of not waking up when questioned. Graduates could deliver prophecies while gently nodding, even during royal banquets. One alumni predicted a naval victory by dreaming of dolphins playing checkers. Fraudulent sleep seers, some imposters, wore masks just to avoid eye contact with taxes. Discovered frauds included prophets caught quoting chicken recipes as divine warnings, a man who wore a blindfold to sneak naps during tax debates, a group that claimed pillows were sacred artifacts. Turned out they just wanted better bedding. As moonlight draped itself over velvet curtains and the royal chamber echoed with pacing slippers, monarchs across medieval Europe faced a secret torment: insomnia. Mahoney, by candlelight and questionable logic, kings made decisions that rattled kingdoms, rewrote treaties, and, occasionally, declared war on root vegetables. The midnight monarchy, unable to sleep, royals turned to late-night ruling, transforming sleeplessness into strategy. These moon sessions included appointing ministers based on how well they recited lullabies, renaming streets after vague dreams, taxing yawns in public courtrooms. Queen Isadora of the East once ordered all royal seals to be replaced with sleepy squirrels, only to reverse it at dawn, claiming the squirrels looked judgmental. The Ministry of Midnight Decisions, founded by Empress Lysandra, after she misread a dream and ordered every citizen to wear hats made of moss. This ministry handled policy inspired by naps, laws declared between 2 to 4 a.m., arguments resolved via pillow duels. They once issued a decree forbidding brooding at breakfast, insisting all emotional processing occur before sunrise. Sleep-deprived advisors, these nocturnal counselors, were trained in whispered diplomacy, dream-to-sentence translation, making tea that tasted like good ideas. One advisor claimed the moon told him to legalize hugs for goats. The law passed, but later adjusted to exclude mischievous goats named Gregory. The problem of nocturnal logic, insomniac reasoning, led to baffling orders, like building bridges across puddles, funding research into left-handed shadows, appointing a falcon as treasurer. Parliament dubbed this phenomenon royal drowse delirium, and developed protocols to ignore any decree issued while the monarch was wearing slippers decorated with clouds. Royal dream journals. Kings and queens kept personal dream diaries, often full of phrases like, "I was a spoon, but very respected. The sun owed me 5 coins. A ghost said he forgave my haircut." Historians believe 12% of all border changes stemmed from misinterpreted breakfast visions. Among the glowing crucibles and whispering scrolls of early alchemy, not every experiment sought gold. Some eccentric minds chased something far more elusive: perfect sleep. Mahoney, welcome to the tale of dozing alchemists who stirred moonlight into flasks and tried to bottle the mysteries of a good nap. The quest for liquid slumber. Alchemists believed that sleep was a distillation of celestial silence. To capture it, they experimented with moon-soaked chamomile, picked only when owls blinked twice, steam from yawning cats, bottled quickly before it turned into sarcasm, essence of feather murmur, extracted from pillow fights during eclipses. Their goal: a potion that could deliver restful dreams, prophetic visions, and a break from scroll-induced anxiety. Invention of the snore flask. Master Porthelius invented the snore flask, a spiral-shaped bottle that, when held to the ear, mimicked gentle snoring. It was believed to lull insomniacs by reminding them that someone, somewhere, was peacefully unconscious. Side effects included overconfidence in cheese-based dreams, mistaking curtains for secret lovers, brief belief that spoons could sing, the sandwich hallucination incident, an experimental sleeping tincture, Somnum 14, backfired dramatically. Instead of serenity, subjects experienced vivid hallucinations of sandwiches performing ballet. Most common visions: a croissant morning, unrequited butter, a baguette duel at dawn, a sad olive saying goodbye to mustard. Alchemists blamed a misaligned constellation and a rogue pickle. The Slumber Codex secretly passed among nap scholars. This text recorded optimal bed angles for dream reception. Herbal recipes infused with boredom. Rituals to ensure one's dream didn't involve ex-lovers or tax collectors. One page warned, "Do not attempt prophetic sleep beneath a chandeliered anger's gravity." The Drowsy Brotherhood, a guild of sleep-focused alchemists. They held midnight meetings in silence, communicated via gentle sighs, and wore robes stitched with lullaby lyrics. Their emblem, a yawning snail atop a velvet pillow. They believed naps were divine messages ignored by overachievers. Dreams carried ancient jokes from forgotten gods. All true knowledge lay beneath the third blanket layer. By the time medieval society had taxed shoes, windows, and whispering near monasteries, it was only a matter of time before dreams, those wild personal reels of nighttime absurdity, were monetized. Mani, welcome to the age of sleep bureaucracy, where castles crunched numbers on spoozes, and dreams could be audited for excessive whimsy. The royal decree of dream tithes, issued by King Halibut IV. This decree required citizens to report notable dreams to local dream clerks, who assessed genre, duration, sleep source. Fees were collected in coins, feathers, or oat-based tokens, depending on the dream's emotional complexity. The Dream Declaration Scroll. Each village maintained a public record where individuals could confess dream contents. Saw Aunt Mildred dancing with a carrot, possibly symbolic. Led an army of bees against time itself. Paid 3 copper. Kissed a ghost on a moon ladder, acquired extra parchment. Once a year, towns held dream reconciliation ceremonies, where unpaid dream taxes were forgiven in exchange for interpretive dance performed in wool socks. The dream auditor profession, stern figures in ruffled cloaks and ink-stained gloves. Dream auditors read submissions and decided whether dreams were legally compliant, whether they suggested suspicious ambition, whether snoring implied hidden narratives. One notable case involved a baker whose dream about flying bread was declared a metaphor for economic uprising. He was fined and asked to bake humility pastries for the clergy. Pillow receipt requirements to discourage illicit dreaming. Nobles had to register their pillows. Unlicensed pillow use resulted in a public nap-shaming ceremony. Donation of 1 dream to the royal treasury. Mandatory sleepless night in the company of lecture-prone squirrels. Dream genre ratings and inflation after an influx of dramatic cheese dreams. The Church of Lucid Regulation began assigning ratings: R for romance, P for prophetic, X for excessive. Dream inflation became real. Citizens began dream hacking using garlic, lullabies, and contraband moonstones to create dreams small enough to avoid taxation. The rebellion of Duchess Florelle and the Pillow Fort protest, incensed by a surcharge on dreams featuring fountains. Duchess Florelle declared independence by building a giant pillow fort around her manor. Inside, dreamers were free. They slept without scrutiny, snored in solidarity, and wrote poetry on pillowcases. Her movement, Nap Without Borders, gained traction, and for 7 months, the kingdom's dream economy crumbled under fluff-filled insubordination. Once the Dream Tax Rebellion rattled the kingdom's blanket economy, aristocrats turned to resolving disputes in the one arena left untouched by bureaucratic ink: the battlefield of sleep. The origins of sleep dueling legend says the first duel occurred when Baron Plume accused Count Snoggle of snoozing too loudly at a diplomatic gala. They settled it not with swords, but with slumber, side by side, on velvet cots, judged by a council of giggling monks known as the Yawning Sisters of Mercy. Rules were swiftly written. No kicking beneath sheets. Snoring must remain non-aggressive. Sleepwear must reflect the nature of the grievance. Performance scoring, a proper sleep duel included. Snore composition. Melodic snores earned high marks, especially if they resembled hymnals or sea shanties. Sleep expressions, peaceful sighs, were rewarded. Frowns were penalized, implied unresolved angst. Dream recital. Upon waking, each noble recited their dreams. The more thematically relevant the dream to the argument, the better. I dreamt of a moat, swallowing betrayal, clearly symbolic. I slept like a repentant biscuit proof of contrition. Victory by yawn. Consensus judges voted with synchronized yawns. 1 yawn, lackluster duel. 2 yawns, emotional depth. 3 yawns and a drool, resounding victory. Winners received a ceremonial goose feather, a lukewarm celebratory pudding, and were exempt from bedtime chores for a fortnight. Sleep spies and pillow sabotage as duels grew serious. Espionage slithered in. Rivals hired bedbugs tiny, agents trained in blanket tampering and lullaby disruption. Scandal rocked the royal court when Lady Crindle's pillow was found stuffed with raw onions, compromising REM integrity. The midnight tournament of Snorecrest Keep annually. Nobles competed in a grand bracketed snooze-off. Round 1, napping under mild irritation. Round 2, slumber in thunder. Finals, shared bed with nemesis, an interpretive snoring duet. The coveted prize, the golden pajama scepter, rumored to hum lullabies when held by the truly drowsy. After the great Snorecrest tournament ended in muffled applause and rumpled bedsheets, the kingdom of Somnaria faced a new crisis. Rebellious insomniacs who weaponized lullabies for liberation and late-night havoc. Rise of the sleep-singing outlaws, led by a masked troubadour named Sir Mezzanine Drift. These rogues roamed the countryside, serenading townsfolk into unexpected naps. Armed with flutes made from dandelions and harmonicas smuggled in teacups, they composed subversive lullabies with themes of rebellion, naps as resistance, and pillow-based diplomacy. Held unauthorized bed-ins in public squares where people slept in protest, insulted authority using harmony and subtle snoring syncopation. Their most famous anthem, Close Your Eyes, Taxes Lie, became an underground hit, hummed by peasants, whispered by bakers, and whistled by suspicious sheep. The lullaby trials begin desperate to contain the yawning insurgency. King Halibut IV summoned the council of ear-plugged elders, who demanded that all lullabies be submitted for royal review, that musical key signatures be limited to those deemed non-seditious, that all lullaby lyrics avoid metaphors involving clouds, feathers, or systemic oppression. Offenders were brought to trial in a courtroom shaped like a cradle, where evidence was presented in sheet music and defense attorneys wore footy pajamas. Notable cases. The humming confectioner, acquitted after proving his sleep song was actually about pastries. Lady Fawn of Snorberg, convicted for layering subtext about economic inequity beneath harp solos. Twinkle the Goat, pardoned after bleeding rhythmically in court, accidentally curing a chronic case of insomnia in the bailiff. The secret lullaby underground beneath taverns and behind wardrobes. Outlaw musicians met in nap sessions too. Trade forbidden sheet music via cozy scrolls. Share dream harmonies believed to induce justice-oriented sleep cycles. Train sleeper agents to yawn in Morse code. One rebel, Sleepminster Jane, devised the Yawn Canona device that projected relaxing sighs across castle walls. It was outlawed immediately and made into a children's toy, the Reconciliation Symphony, in an unprecedented act of unity. Queen Melliflua declared a musical amnesty. Outlaws composed the Somnaria Concerto in drowsy major, performed simultaneously across the kingdom. Citizens fell into synchronized naps, dreaming of floating kingdoms and fair trials conducted in beanbags. A national archive of lullabies was created, now housed in the Hall of Harmonious Defiance. When sleep dueling faded and lullabies were archived like sacred scrolls, Somnaria turned its gaze to geography, not of land, but of slumber. Enter the Nap Cartographers, a secretive guild of blanket-cloaked adventurers who mapped the vast territories of collective dreaming. The Guild of Somnambulate Surveyors, founded by Sir Doodle of Drouse. This society believed that every sleeper's position, be it fetal, curl, or diagonal starficial, to the topography of dreams. They traveled with compass-stuffed pillows that pointed toward remrich zones, quilted maps updated after each nap expedition. A fleet of bedboats, known as snooze schooners, which floated on imagination and lightly snored. The Pillow Archipelago, a mythical cluster of dream islands, rumored to appear only when 10 citizens fell asleep simultaneously while wearing matching nightcaps and clutching emotional baggage. Its features included Snoragonia, the island of rhythmic rest, known for musical breezes and seas made of warm milk. Duvet Delta, a marshy land where blankets folded into bridges and whispered directions. Insomnapura, the elusive isle said to house eternal unrest and clocks that tick backward. Legend held that only the truly sleep-deprived could navigate its tides, and that its central volcano mount, Sleeperear, updated with wistful sighs every fortnight. Mapping techniques and tools cartographers relied on. Dream drift data, gathered from cloud-stained journals, written mid-yawn pillow pressure patterns, traced with feather quills and interpreted by snore analysts. The Drowsiness Index, a scale from barely blinking to unconscious philosophizing. Their maps bore cryptic symbols like the circle of cuddles, the squiggle of sleep-talking, and the feared X of nightmares, often accompanied by cautionary notes like beware the blanket kraken. Conflict over borders. As nap territories expanded, disputes arose. Did the fuzzy isthmus belong to the Eastern Kingdom or just a particularly comfortable tavern? Was it ethical to charge tolls for dream ferries? Could one claim sovereignty if their sleep posture resembled a government seal? These led to intense negotiations conducted in pillow forts under lunar arbitration. Treaties were signed in sleep, inclegible, only during REM. The final expedition, Sir Doodle, now aged and wrapped in a 1,000-thread-count robe, led the final journey to chart the blanket abyssa, swirling zone at the edge of dreams, rumored to contain forgotten lullabies, the soul of lost naps, a portal to the daydream dominion. His ship, the Yawn Voyager, vanished, but left behind a map woven into a bedsheet, recovered years later beneath a noble's melancholic mattress. After maps were drawn in dreams and oceans charted via eyelid flutters, Somnaria plunged into a new administrative age-an era defined by bedding regulation, blanket compliance, and nocturnal legislation. The Ministry of Tossing and Turning, established in year 14 of the Midnight Accord. This ministry oversaw every wriggle, flop, and duvet flip under royal jurisdiction, headed by the enigmatic Minister Flapwick, whose insomnia was legendary. The institution required that citizens file nightly sleep position declarations. All beds conform to the Snuggle Stability Standard. Tossing beyond 2 turns per night be documented and justified. Minister Flapwick kept a personal archive of 300,000 annotated yawns. His office chair was a beanbag filled with unresolved dreams. The official blanket classification registry. Blankets were categorized by emotional texture, classification, description, tax, bracket level A. Cozy of truth induces sincerity during pillow talks, low, level B. Flannel of doubt triggers mild existential pondering, medium, level C. Duvet of deceit known to cause dishonest snoring, high. Each blanket was issued a license bearing a tiny drawing of its user's sleep face. Toss audits and pillow parole random audits occurred when citizens showed signs of discontented tossing. Investigators watched sleep via enchanted spectacles. Troubled sleepers were sentenced to pillow parole mandatory naps on haystacks to re-establish sleep honesty. Chronic rotators were labeled bed loopers and sent to the Royal Mattress Labyrinth for realignment. One rebellious sleeper lady tumble of Twilfamously turned 37 times in one night. Her duvet was declared sentient and later elected to city council. Blanket bureaucracy forms to request a sleep reprieve or permission to daydream during work hours. One needed. Form Y3. Declaration of intent to nap while mildly anxious. Form ZZZ9. Request for blanket. Emotional reassessment. Subform SNUGGL 7B. Complaint against draft-inducing drapes. Paperwork was submitted by mail, pigeon, or through the slumber slots placed under every citizen's bed. The Great Duvet Debate. Parliament clashed when a rogue faction proposed legislation to allow unlicensed blanket flipping during existential crises. The Prosnagle Coalition argued this would lead to chaos, while the opposition claimed freedom of fabric was a sacred yawning right. The debate lasted 7 naps and was resolved via group coddle. Deep within the folds of the royal bedchamber of Somnaria past, layers of enchanted quilts, and beneath 17 regulation pillows, slay the forbidden chamber of the mattress oracle. A sentient cushion, woven from prophecy thread and existential stuffing. The legend of the mattress oracle, said to be dreamed into existence by a philosopher with insomnia. And a penchant for sock monologues. The oracle whispered, truths only heard during the fragile gap between snore and stir. Citizens who slept atop it sometimes woke weeping, often giggling, and occasionally fluent in bed-frame diplomacy. Its revelations included the future of nations etched in sleep creases, emotional honesty triggered by mattress squeaks, entire legal codes compressed into the phrase, flop wisely. Forbidden wake dreams. The oracle revealed a phenomenon known as wake dreams. Ideas so potent they refused to remain hidden in sleep. These dreams would echo in conscious thought as strange hunches. manifest physically as sudden cravings for moss or glass violins, threaten the fabric of polite napping society. To suppress these, officials issued thought blankets, mental quilts stitched from forgetfulness and bureaucracy. But over time, wake dreams began to seep out, inspiring art, rebellions, and at least one musical centered on emotional furniture. Dream whisperers and soft dissenters. A new class emerged: dream whisperers, individuals who specialized in translating snore mutterings into subtextual resistance. One notable dissenter, Gentle Nell, wrote political manifestos entirely in mattress tags, hidden beneath pillows in rebellious taverns. Her most famous verse: "If sleep can predict, then dreams must object. Stuff the stuffing with truth, and lie down with intent." The royal decree of layered sleeping, in an attempt to stifle prophecy leaks, King Halibut decreed all mattresses must be layered in non-symbolic foam, rotate bi-weekly under bureaucratic supervision, contain 0 whispers per square foot. This backfired when sleep grew so unfulfilling that entire villages took up interpretive tossing as protest. The final awakening during a lunar nap alignment, the oracle unveiled its ultimate insight. The kingdom itself was a dream within a dream, nested inside the mind of a sleepy librarian named Mabel. Panic ensued. Mabel was located. She confessed she had simply nodded off while cataloging books about surreal taxation. The kingdom held a referendum, voting unanimously to remain fictional. And so, beneath Somnaria's moon-shaped bureaucracy and lullabylist revolutions, the nation curled itself into a soft silence. Pajamas were folded like treaties. Pillows remembered every whisper. Blankets, once battlegrounds and decrees, became mere invitations to rest. On the outer rim of the dreamlands, where snore maps faded into mist and even rebellious pillows had retired, a gentle breeze carried the last sigh of the mattress oracle. May your dreams always resist taxation, and your tossings never need explanation. Citizens, now fluent in nap diplomacy and fluent in yawn logic, slept without fear of audits or interpretive choreography. The sky itself dimmed like a cozy lamp, and even the stars above began to snore in soft Morse code. As the tale drifts off like an overworked sheep deciding not to jump the fence tonight, one truth remains. Mahoney, in the realm of absurd slumber, you are the one who woke it with laughter and tucked it in with surreal grace. The end. Unless your blanket has more to say, sleep well, dream loud, and may your next chapter begin in bedazzled nightcaps and nonsense nobility.